This is Barraquito. Whoa. And Barraquito has a story to tell. Now, I'm not Spanish, so I might have completely butchered that entire pronunciation, but Barraquito is a coffee liqueur, and it tells an entire story without saying a single word. And if you want to find out why, well, join me for this video, where I explain symbolism, how to use inferred storytelling for your story, or for your tabletop RPG, because we tend to talk about tabletop RPGs over on this channel. Now, if you want to actually know what I'm on about, feel free to skip ahead, because I'm going to start talking about why I'm talking about this and how to use it and all that. Like, if you're just here because you want to know what I'm on about why coffee liqueur is so interesting, feel free to skip ahead. There'll be a chapter on the little bar down the bottom there. So why is this tea drinker found coffee liqueur so interesting suddenly? Well, it's all in the symbolism of the drink. Symbolism and inferred storytelling is an incredibly powerful tool which can help you deliver an incredible narrative. It can also be used very badly and incorrectly if you don't quite understand how to appropriately apply it. But it is an incredibly powerful tool in your arsenal that you should be very aware of when creating whatever kind of media that you want to, be that video games, be that stories, or be that tabletop RPGs. And what am I talking about when I'm talking about symbolism and inferred storytelling? Well, think about this. Why does the hero typically wear a white shirt? Well, they wear a white shirt because we inherently think of the color white and a man wearing a white shirt as the good guy. And the villain typically wears a black shirt because he is the villain. And this is a bit of symbolism which is inherently just telling you what the story is without you really having to properly understand, be introduced to any of these characters. Black shirt guy is obviously bad because he's in black. White shirt guy is obviously good because he's in white. It doesn't really matter all that much, and you might be wrong, of course, but inherently in our minds we just go to that quite quickly because that is culturally what we accept. It might just be something that we have grown up with. It's a trope or something that we have seen a lot before, and our brain picks that up as a pattern. And humans are inherently pattern recognizing creatures. So if you can use these patterns in your stories to effectively communicate what you're trying to communicate, then use those patterns. There are a number of pieces of media which do this kind of technique, and they are widespread and used for various different reasons. Be that to communicate some sort of idea to the player or the audience, or to communicate some sort of feeling. Let's talk about Darth Vader for a brief second. Darth Vader, why is he wearing a cape? Naturally, we think of capes as something like a superhero would wear, or a figure of authority, like an emperor or something like that. So having him have a big, black, dark cape, well, he's obviously a big, dark, evil person. We can't see his face, and typically we don't like people who we can't see their faces because their faces are covered. And it's a more natural human response to want to see the face, see the expression, so you know if they're, friendly to you, if they're smiling at you, or if they're angry at you. You can't see their face. It creates that level of personal distance, right? He is definitely a villain, but he's also a powerful villain because he's got this wonderful flowing cape. He is a figure of authority compared to all of the other bad guys around him. And that's just a very simple example of one of the things that you could do to communicate something in your story. But thinking about little things like how your characters dress, what kind of weapon that they're using. Star Wars is of course amazing for using blue and green sabers to show the good guy, but also red sabers to show the bad guy, right? That's the color of the Sith. And they do that just so, it's like you can distinguish who is fighting who in these sword duels. But also it serves as a narrative purpose. Luke, when we first start the adventure, of course, uses the blue lightsaber, Ironically, it is the Youngling Destroyer 9000, but like let's ignore that for a few moments. He then goes on a journey of discovery during the Return of the Jedi, and then he returns to the screen with a green lightsaber for the first time. It shows that he's grown up from this naive boy looking to play hero, because of course blue saber is the color that we have associated as so far in the series. If you only take the first 2 episodes as something that you've watched. Blue is the color of the good guy lightsaber fighter, because Obi-Wan also uses a blue lightsaber. But the show that he has a green lightsaber shows that he has broken away from that traditional Jedi mentality. He inherently is his own person now. And of course, later lore goes and adds a lot to the color of the green lightsaber and all that but in that if you just take the first 2 episodes or first 3 episodes of the original movies into account, that is something that you could probably read in. And the great bit about this is I could inherently be wrong. A lot of the time when you do this implicit storytelling, it is often up to the audience to understand or interpret what you're showing them to their own expectations and their own culture and their own preconceptions. And this is why it's extremely important when you are writing to write something that is genuine. You want to write something which is painting the world as you see it, rather than trying to enforce some sort of narrative onto the story that doesn't quite fit. And the way that you do this is just by being true to the characters, being true to the themes that you have set up, and not trying to dictate where the story should go. It should flow in a nice narrative that you have created, rather than trying to push some particular messaging because I want that messaging to come across or whatever. If you've ever started writing something that you felt, I don't want it to go this way, so I'm going to try and force it to go that way, and it comes off as a little bit not quite right, a little bit forced, a little bit tricky, that's probably why. Stories need to have this narrative flow and consistency, because that is what the real world is made out of, this kind of flow and consistency where everything kind of makes sense naturally, and people are inherently true to themselves and they don't just do a random 180 out of nowhere because it was convenient. Another great example, of course, is why do action heroes never wear helmets? Well, traditionally, we'd expect them to wear a helmet because they're in, bullets flying around. If they get hit in the head, and that's kind of it, right? That's how we kind of understand bullets work. But they are an action hero. They need to be able to convey their own emotions to the audience. This is not necessarily somebody that is a real character. It is somebody that we need to empathize with, and that is somebody that we are to aspire to in a way. They are the hero of the story, so they need to be able to get that point across and be seen. Great leaders in many battles, for example, have often fallen foul of the fact that they need to be at the front and be seen so that the regular troops who are around can be inspired by their presence. William the Conqueror almost lost the Battle of Hastings. I can't remember if this is a historical fact or not, or whether this has been disproven, but I know it was a story that he got unhorsed during the Battle of Hastings, and then everyone was, oh, we've lost the Duke William, so we can't win the battle anymore. We need to run away. And then he climbed up a hill to wave a flag to tell everybody that he was still alive and to keep fighting, and that was enough to allow the Normans to break the Saxon ranks. Heroes need to be able to show their face. That's why action heroes don't wear helmets, but they do wear helmets in war films, because we know that in real war, getting hit in the head is gonna not do you very good. So a lot of war films do have heroes in helmets because they are trying to convey that this isn't a story, this is something that could be real, something that is very dangerous, and these characters feel a lot more human for wearing that helmet, basically, just like we would be wearing that helmet. They're not superhuman, they're not immortal, and they can die. And that is implicit storytelling, which sets a tone and expectation for a narrative. It is not that it is inherently unrealistic that the hero isn't wearing a helmet. It doesn't matter. It's a story. And if the suspension of disbelief allows it, then you can convincingly have a hero not wearing a helmet, because it is about more than the fact that this is meant to be a realistic interpretation of a medieval battle or something, or a war battle or whatever, and you're trying to tell a very different story compared to a war film, which might be trying to tell you about the real horrors of war and why war is bad or something like that. So next time when you're writing your tabletop RPG narrative or your story, pay attention to what the characters wear. Pay attention to how they conduct themselves. Pay attention to the color of their clothes, the color of their standard, even the color of their hair. I mean, anime has a thing about blue hair girls, right? So, you know. And the important thing as well is to understand that an outfit change or a color change on that particular character can indicate some level of personal growth, outside of it just being a convenient way to sell a gacha skin or something. The look and feel of your story can also reinforce the themes that you are trying to convey. So, how does Barraquito, my favorite coffee liqueur now, convey an entire story? Well, it's quite simple. When I had Barraquito, I had it in a nice long glass. And if you're going to drink Barraquito, I would recommend you drinking it in a long glass for the best effect. The coffee liqueur is a layered drink. So when you have different liquids of different consistencies, they go to different parts of the glass. This gives you this varying tastes, basically, when you drink it. At the very start of the Barraquito, you have this froth, this foam, that you can't drink. You have to scoop it out using a spoon that they give you. It's a very neutral taste. It tastes very odd in the mouth. And this is the first stage of Barraquito. Because Barraquito is a story of life. When you begin life, you're a baby, and you must be fed using a spoon. And everything is very new, very unsure. You don't quite understand what the taste of food is like. You don't quite know what the expectations of life is going to be. And you're surrounded, hopefully, by loving family members who will spoon feed you, who will care for you, and who will make sure that everything is going to be okay. And perhaps you might get a little bit of the coffee side of the liqueur in that spoon. And that coffee taste is quite bitter. And you get your first tastes of what life is really like. At least that's what you think. Then you go on to the coffee section of the liqueur. And this you can actually properly drink. Now that you are not a baby, you can stand on your own 2 feet and you can drink your own drink properly. And it tastes bitter. Coffee is very, very bitter. And you get this overwhelming sense of, this isn't great. This isn't what I signed up for. This is is this going to be worth it? You have a lot of trials and tribulations at the start of your life. It's very confusing. It's very unsure. You don't know what exactly will lie ahead or at the bottom of the glass. But you have to keep drinking. I mean, you paid your €8 or whatever. So you have to keep going. And perhaps as you drink, you might get a little taste of something very, very sweet. Something very, very strong. And you get to the alcohol level of the Barraquito. And it tastes very sweet. It tastes very strong. You get this powerful feeling of whiskey. And you start to think that something might be at the end of this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Because in that alcohol, you can also taste something very sweet too. There's something to drive you forward through all of the hardship, through all of the bitterness of the main course of the drink. There's a sweet relief at the end. And that sweet relief is the things that you build along the way when you are going through your life. When you start as somebody in their 20s trying to build something for the first time, trying to create a family and all of that, it is very hard work. It's a very dark time. And perhaps as you go through this period, you might be able to build something for yourself to build a better future upon. And then you get to this rich alcohol, which fills you with delight. It fills you with this pride that you've managed to accomplish everything that you have set out to be. You have at the end of your life, this wonderful family around you, hopefully. This great job that you've always wanted. Your dreams have managed to come true. And then right at the end, you come to the cream, which is very sweet again. But you can't eat it. You can't drink it. Well, at least not quite. It's better to use the spoon. And this is the period of your life when you're much older. Once again, you're having to rely on people to help you, this spoon feed you, as it were. Because as you grow old, your movement breaks down. You can't do things for yourself anymore. But you are still surrounded by the fruits of your labor, by the people who love you and care for you, and therefore you are filled with this warm, lovely cream sensation as you end your final days in a nice period of rest and gratitude for everything that you have accomplished. And that is the story of Barraquito. I highly recommend it as a drink. Of course, I could just be being incredibly sentimental on my holiday, but hey, I've just gone on a big rant about how symbolism matters, so it mattered to me. Once again, I'm not a native Spanish speaker, so I may have completely butchered the name Barraquito, and I do apologize fervently for that. However, it did mean a lot to me. It made me think about a lot of things, and for that, I am very grateful. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this, please consider subscribing for more very strange videos. The next one's not going to be about coffee, don't worry. But I tend to talk a lot about RPGs, storytelling, and how to do it better on this channel. So if you want to subscribe for some more advice videos, feel free to. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you around. Ta-da!